My name is Lorena Me Archer. I am 78 years old, born in the soft spring of 1947 in a small Indiana town where the cornfields stand taller than the gossip. I have lived a long life, most of it quiet, most of it patient, most of it spent trying not to trouble anyone. That is the curse of many women my age. We learn to swallow our pain before we ever learn how to speak of it. But on this cold December morning, as frost crept along the windows of my little beige house on Maple Ridge Lane, something inside me finally cracked. Before I begin my story, dear listener, make sure you hit the subscribe button, tap like, and turn on your notifications so you do not miss the powerful stories coming your way. And please drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. I love knowing which hearts are sitting with me across this country. Now, let us begin. I woke up early that morning, before the sun had even touched the tops of the naked winter trees. My bones ached the way they always do when the weather turns hard. I sat at the edge of my bed, listening to the soft ticking of the old clock on my wall, thinking I would have a normal day. A slow breakfast, my puzzles, my afternoon walk to the mailbox. But then the doorbell rang. I remember the sound perfectly, sharp, rushed, as if the person behind it had no time for patience. When I opened the door, there stood my daughter-in-law, Celine. Her name sounded sweet, but her mouth rarely was. She stood with her coat unbuttoned and her hair pulled back so tight that it looked like it hurt. She did not say good morning. She did not ask if I had slept well. She did not even step inside to warm herself. Instead, she said the words that would change the entire course of my winter. "Your husband and his family are coming for Christmas, Lorna. Great, because I am going on vacation, and you are in charge." At first, I did not understand. I blinked at her, waiting for a better explanation. But she only crossed her arms and let her eyes sweep over me from head to toe, as if deciding whether I looked capable of the job she was dumping on me. The cold wind blew her words deeper into my chest. I felt them lodge there like splinters. She said it again, slower this time, as if I were a confused child and not a grown woman who had raised her own family with tired hands and a patient heart. "You are in charge, Lorna, the whole family. You will host them, cook for them, manage them. I already told them you would." My throat tightened. I tried to speak, but what came out was small. "Why would you tell them that?" Celine shrugged. "Because you have nothing else to do, and I need a break. You understand. I am sure you remember what it is like to be a busy wife." Busy wife? I almost laughed. I once worked 2 jobs while caring for a sick husband and raising a son who barely looked me in the eye after he grew tall enough to stand over me. Busy was the only language I ever knew, but she spoke as though I existed only to fill empty spaces for other people. She turned as if leaving was the end of our conversation, but something inside me stirred, a small heat, a spark I had forgotten I still carried. "Celine," I said, stepping out onto the porch despite the cold. "When are they coming?" "Tomorrow," she said it without a blink. "Tomorrow," I repeated. My voice cracked like thin ice under a boot. She nodded. "Yes, and I already told them you were excited. So do not make me look bad, Lorna. You know how sensitive they are." Then she walked away, just like that. No thank you, no apology, no question about whether I was strong enough, healthy enough, willing enough. Because to her, I was none of those things. I was simply available. I watched her get into her car and drive down the street, her taillights glowing red through the rising fog. And then I stood there for a long time, arms wrapped around myself, trying to understand how I had become the woman everyone expected to carry their burdens while having no one to help carry mine. Inside the house, the silence felt louder than usual. I moved slowly through the kitchen, touching the backs of chairs, the edges of the counter, the framed photos that lined the wall. Pictures of people who once lived in this home with me, now scattered across states and years, living lives that rarely paused long enough to check if I was all right. Hosting them, cooking for them, managing them, tomorrow. A tremor ran through my hands, not because I was afraid of hard work. I had lived through plenty of that, but because of what their arrival would mean. Old wounds, old habits, old expectations. My husband, Warren, in particular, the man who had once promised me a peaceful life and instead spent decades molding mine into something small and quiet, a shadow of who I once hoped to become. Hosting him again felt like stepping back into a cold room I had finally escaped. But as I stared at the empty dining table, something else rose inside me. Not fear, not sadness. Something different, something new for a woman my age, a feeling I had not tasted in many years. Resolve. The rest of that day felt like walking on the edge of a storm. I moved slowly, thinking, remembering, planning, wondering if this time things would finally be different. If this time I would speak instead of whisper, stand instead of shrink, live instead of just wait. Night came. I sat in my recliner, wrapped in my soft old blanket, listening to the wind scrape against the windows. The house felt too small for my thoughts, too quiet for the noise in my chest. And then, sometime after midnight, as the house settled into its creaking winter silence, a memory returned. A memory I had buried deep. A secret, really. One that would change everything once the family walked through my door. I closed my eyes, letting the memory wash over me. And just as I started to remember the part I tried hardest to forget, there was a sudden sound outside. A car door closing. At this hour. I rose slowly, heart thumping, and walked to the front window. I pulled the curtain back with trembling fingers. Someone was standing in my yard. Someone I had not seen in years. Someone who should not have known where to find me. But they were here, and the moment I recognized the face in the dark, my breath left my body. Because this person was the reason the secret existed at all. Before I could move, before I could breathe, they lifted their hand and knocked on my door. 3 slow knocks. And that is where everything began to fall apart. Or maybe, finally, where everything began to come together. Before we continue, make sure you like this story, comment where you are watching from, and subscribe so you do not miss any of our next stories. For a long moment, I could not move. I stood frozen behind the thin curtain, staring through the pale porch light at the figure outside my door. The cold glass of the window pressed against my forehead. And still I could not pull my eyes away. I had not seen that face in so many years that I often wondered if my memory had changed it. But no, it was the same, older, harder, but unmistakable. I felt the kind of fear that comes not from danger, but from the past. A fear made of unfinished business. A fear shaped like regret. The knocks came again, slow, heavy, as if the person wanted me to feel each one in my bones. I forced my feet forward, one step, then another. The hallway felt longer than usual, like it was stretching, trying to keep me from the door. My breath came in small, cloudy puffs as if the winter air had already slipped inside. When I reached the door, my hand hovered above the knob. My arm trembled. I was 78 years old, but the trembling did not come from age. It came from memory. Finally, I opened the door. There he stood. Elias Booker. The man who had once been my closest friend. The man who had vanished without a goodbye. And the man who carried the other half of a secret I had buried so deep I sometimes feared it would choke me from beneath the soil of my own heart. Elias looked older than I expected. His thick hair had thinned into silver strands, deep grooves carved along his cheeks like time had taken a chisel to him. but his eyes were the same sharp cedar brown I remembered. Eyes that saw too much. Eyes that held too much. "Lorna," he said quietly. His voice was rough, like he had swallowed stones for years. I stood blocking the doorway, unsure if I should speak his name or shut the door and pretend this was a dream. "What are you doing here?" My voice, barely rose above a whisper. He pulled his coat tighter around himself and cast a nervous glance toward the street. "I need to talk to you. Please, it's important." Important. That word twisted in my stomach like a knot tightening. Nothing between us had ever been simple. Not then, and certainly not now. I stepped aside because something inside me knew I could not turn him away. Not tonight. Not with tomorrow's storm of family looming over me. Not with the secret trembling inside my chest like a trapped bird. Elias entered the house slowly, his steps cautious, like he was afraid the floor might scold him. He stood in the living room, staring at the framed pictures on the wall. Pictures of Warren, of my son, of my old life. He looked like someone walking through a museum of moments he had missed. "You look tired," I said softly. He gave a small, bitter smile. "I've been tired for years, Lorna." We sat across from each other. The lamp cast a warm glow across the room, but the air between us felt cold. Silent, heavy. The last time I saw Elias was 50 years ago. Back when Warren was still young and handsome, before the disappointments shaped him into a man who believed control was the same thing as love. Back when my son was a boy who still held my hand. Back when I had hope. Back when Elias and I had made a choice that left both of us wounded, a choice we told no one, not even Warren. Especially not Warren. I poured Elias a cup of tea because my hands needed something to do. He wrapped his hands around the cup like he wanted to warm memories that had long gone cold. "I heard your husband is coming back tomorrow," he said quietly. My breath caught. "How did you know that?" He hesitated, looked away. When he spoke again, his voice carried a tremor. "Because, Lorna, your husband is the reason I am here." The room seemed to tilt. The clock on the wall ticked louder. Outside, the wind pushed against the windows, rattling them as if trying to warn me. "Explain," I whispered. Elias set the cup down, but his hands lingered on the table, fingers splayed, trembling. "I have kept our secret for 50 years. I never broke my word, not once. But Warren knows something now. Someone told him, and he is coming here because he wants answers. He wants to dig everything up. He wants to expose what happened, and he will not spare either of us." My heart began to pound so hard, I thought the whole house could hear it. "What did he learn, Elias? What exactly does Warren know?" Elias shook his head. "I am not sure, but he knows enough to come looking for the truth, and he wants revenge for what he thinks we did to him back then." A chill slid down my spine. Back then. Those two words held an entire graveyard of memory. The summer I spent hiding bruises under long sleeves so the church ladies would not stare. The night Elias drove me to the hospital when Warren refused to believe I needed help. The moment the doctor pulled me aside, telling me in gentle words that the baby would not survive. And Warren blaming me for it. And Elias stepping in, saying things only a brave man or a foolish one would say. The shouting, the threats, the night Warren told Elias to stay away from his family. And then Elias disappearing, leaving town without warning, without goodbye, without anything. But it was not abandonment, not really. It was protection, the kind that breaks your heart to give. Now here he stood, after half a century, because the past had clawed its way back to the surface. "Does he know about the baby?" I whispered. The word baby felt strange after all these years, like a ghost returning to my mouth. Elias lowered his eyes. I do not know, but he suspects something. And Lorna, please listen to me. If he found out where you live, he might already be planning to punish you, in his own way. My pulse throbbed in my throat. I knew what Warren's punishments looked like. Even after divorce, he still believed I owed him something. Obedience, silence, fear. He took them from me like souvenirs. And now he was coming, tomorrow, with his whole family, a family that treated me like a footnote. I stood up, my legs trembling. Elias rose too, concern filling his eyes. I cannot do this again, I whispered. I am too old, too tired, too worn to fight old wars. Elias stepped closer. But you are stronger now than you ever were then. You survived him. You survived everything. A single tear slid down my face before I could stop it. Why are you telling me this tonight? Why come now? He swallowed hard. Because there is more, he said, and you need to hear it before he arrives. My chest tightened, my breath hitched. More? What more? He stepped back, looking ashamed, as if the next words were stones he had carried for decades. Because Warren was not the only one who found out something. Someone else did too. I blinked, confused. Who? Elias hesitated. His voice came out small, frightened. Your son. The house fell silent, so silent I could hear my own heartbeat. My son. Elias nodded slowly. And Lorna, he believes the wrong version of the story. He believes what Warren told him, and he is coming with them, tomorrow, and he is angry. I felt my knees weaken, my breath scatter, my entire past rise like a wave about to crush me. My son, my sweet boy, my only child. The one I thought I had lost only in distance. Now I might lose him forever. Elias reached out toward me. Lorna, listen to me. There is something else, something I never told you, something you need to know before they walk through that door tomorrow, something that will change everything you think you remember about that summer. I lifted my eyes to him. Fear circled my heart like a tightening rope. What is it, Elias? He opened his mouth. But before he could answer, a shadow moved across my front window. A figure. Then another. Voices outside. Flashlights cutting through the darkness. Footsteps crunching in the snow. I froze. Elias turned toward the window, face pale. Lorna, he whispered, they are here. Who? I gasped. He looked at me with terror in his eyes. Your husband. Your son. And the rest of them. Outside my door. One night early. And they were not alone. The knock on my door shattered the silence inside the house. It was not gentle or polite. It was heavy, demanding. A knock made by someone who believed they had every right to enter my life whenever they pleased. Elias and I stared at each other. Neither of us breathed. Another knock followed. 3 loud thumps that echoed through the hallway like a warning. I felt the old fear curl inside my stomach, the same fear I used to feel when Warren came home in one of his moods. Years had passed since I had last seen him, yet my body remembered every tone of his voice, every shadow of his anger. Elias whispered, "Do not open it yet." But the footsteps outside grew louder, more voices, more shapes moving across the porch. Through the thin curtains, I could see the blurred outlines of several figures. 7, maybe 8, too many for a simple visit. I took a breath and stepped forward. My heart knocked against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Lorna, wait, Elias whispered, pulling gently at my sleeve. He is not the same man you remember. You need to be careful. I looked back at him, steadied my voice, and said the strongest words I could gather. He was never the man I hoped he was. Then I opened the door. The cold night air swept in, sharp as needles. On my porch stood Warren Archer, my former husband, wrapped in a heavy black coat with the collar pulled up around his face. His once charming smile had hardened into a thin line. His eyes were colder than winter. Behind him stood my son, Jace, my tall, broad-shouldered boy who used to run into my arms after school. Now he looked at me like a stranger. His jaw was tight. His eyes held something between disappointment and anger. Behind him stood Celine, pretending to be surprised to see me awake, though I knew she had planned this. She always planned everything when it came to me. And behind them were Warren's brothers, their wives, their grown children, all of them bundled in winter coats, all of them staring at me like I owed them something. Warren's voice cut through the air. "Lorna, we need to talk." Not even a hello, not even a question about my health, not even an apology for showing up in the middle of the night. Just the command, the same one he always used. I drew myself up as straight as I could. "Why are you here tonight? You were supposed to come tomorrow." Warren stepped forward, his boots crunching on the snow. Plans changed. We needed to get ahead of something. Jace folded his arms. His tone was sharper than I had ever heard from him. "Tell us the truth, Mom, all of it." The truth, that word hung in the air like smoke. I felt Elia's step beside me. The porch light fell across his face, and the moment Warren saw him, everything changed. Warren's eyes darkened with something old, something sour, something dangerous. "You," he said, his voice low. "I knew you would crawl back, after all these years." Elias did not speak. His jaw clenched, but his expression stayed calm. I stepped slightly in front of Elias. "Warren, why are you here? What do you want?" Warren tilted his head, almost smiling. "We know something. Something about what happened that summer. Something about what the two of you did. And we came to give you both the chance to confess before we take this to the rest of the family." Celine chimed in with her soft, poisonous voice. "It is better if you just tell the truth now, Lorna. Your son deserves to know." I looked at Jace, hopping to find some piece of the boy he once was, but all I saw was anger, confusion, and an ache I wished I could wipe away. Jace stepped closer. "Mom, Dad told me everything. He told me what you and this man did. He told me why you made him leave. He told me why our family fell apart." His voice cracked slightly, but he held his ground. I glanced back at Elias. His face was pale. This is what Warren wanted, to twist the story, to poison my son against me. I swallowed and looked at my son. "Jace, whatever your father told you, it is not the whole story." He scoffed. "Then tell it. Tell me why you betrayed us. Tell me why you kept secrets from your own family." The word betrayed sliced deep. I wanted to speak. I wanted to explain. I wanted to gather my son in my arms and tell him everything. But Warren interrupted. "Enough, Lorna, step aside. We are coming in." He reached for the door, his hand brushing against my shoulder. The old instinct inside me flinched, the same instinct that had once kept me silent. But before he could push past me, Elias stepped forward, placing himself between Warren and me. "You do not talk to her like that, Warren." The porch went quiet. Every pair of eyes turned to Elias. Warren's mouth curled into a slow, dangerous smile. "Or what, you going to run again? You going to leave town like a coward the way you did back then?" Elias did not move. I did what I had to do. Warren laughed. "Yes, and now you are here again. Why, what do you want with my ex-wife after all these years?" His voice rose, his face reddened. And then he said it. "Unless the two of you had something going on all along. Is that it? Did you think I would not find out?" Jace's eyes widened. The others murmured. I felt tears burn the edges of my eyes, but I forced them back. Warren stepped closer, his finger pointing in my face. Tell them. Tell them what you did. Tell them what really happened with that baby." The world stopped. Snow continued falling behind them, but everything else froze. My throat tightened. My heart beat so hard it hurt. "The baby." He said it like a weapon. Jace looked confused. "Baby, what baby?" Warren snapped, the one she lost because she was sneaking around with him. The words hit me like a blow. Elias exhaled sharply. "That is not true, Warren. You know exactly what happened." Warren raised his voice. "I know what you told her to say. I know what you made her believe." Selene placed a hand dramatically over her chest. "Lorna, is this true? Did you cheat on Warren?" "Cheat, another weapon." Jace looked at me with such pain that my knees almost buckled. "Mom, tell me he is lying. Please." I opened my mouth. The truth trembled on my tongue. But before I could speak, one of Warren's brothers stepped onto the porch and whispered something into his ear. Warren's face shifted, darkened. Then he looked straight at me and said words that chilled my blood. "Lorna, someone else knows the truth. Someone who is coming here tomorrow. Someone who is going to tell the whole story. And when they do, you will not be able to hide anymore." I swallowed. "Who?" Warren's smile spread slowly. "You will find out soon enough." Behind him, Selene pulled out her phone and aimed the camera at me, recording. "Look at her," she said. "She is panicking. She knows she is guilty." Elias stepped closer to me, his voice low, steady. "Lorna, you do not have to let them in. You do not owe them anything." But Warren said, "Oh, she owes us everything. She owes this family answers, and we will get them. Tonight or tomorrow makes no difference to me." Then he turned to his family and said, "Let us go. We will return in the morning, all of us." Jace hesitated. He looked at me, searching for something. Then, with a pained voice, he said, "Tomorrow, Mom, no more lies. You have until then." They left. Their footsteps faded into the snowy night. The porch light flickered. The cold seeped in. Elias closed the door slowly. I collapsed onto the nearest chair, my breath shaking, my chest tight, my hands clammy. He knelt beside me. "Lorna, listen to me. There is something you do not know, something I never told you, something that will change everything." I lifted my eyes, tears spilling. What more could there be, Elias? What else could possibly be left after all this time? He took a slow breath, and with a trembling voice he said, "Because the baby was not yours alone to mourn, and the truth about that night was never what Warren told you, and tomorrow someone is coming who knows everything." My breath caught. Someone is coming who knows the truth. Elias looked at me with sorrow deep enough to drown in. "Lorna," he whispered, "the person coming tomorrow is the one thing Warren never wanted you to find out. Your past is not what you think it is, and neither is your family." For a long time after the door closed, I could not speak. My hands lay limp on my lap, curled like fallen leaves. My breath came in uneven waves. The house felt too small, too dark, too full of ghosts that had been quiet for years but suddenly wanted to be heard. Elias stayed kneeling beside me, his hand hovering near mine, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the warmth of his presence. After everything we had been through, he still waited for permission to comfort me. That alone nearly made me break. Finally, I whispered, "Tell me. Whatever it is, tell me now. I cannot handle more surprises." Elias stood slowly and pulled a chair in front of me. He sat down, face lined with worry, shoulders heavy with a weight he had carried for half a century. "Lorna," he began, "something happened the night we went to the hospital. Something I did not tell you, something I thought would protect you." I blinked hard, my throat tightened. That night was burned into my memory. The blood, The pain, Warren yelling, the doctors rushing. Me lying in a bed staring at the ceiling tiles while everything I dreamed of slipped away. I whispered, "What happened, Elias? I need the truth. All of it." He took a long breath. "That night, Warren told the staff that you fell down the stairs." My stomach twisted. I remember that. And I remember thinking I must have slipped. I was so confused. Elias shook his head slowly. "You did not fall, Lorna. He pushed you." The room tilted. The walls seemed to shift. I clutched the sides of my chair to keep myself grounded. "No," I breathed. "No, I would remember that." He looked at me with eyes full of sadness. "You would have, if you had not hit your head so hard. You passed out for a moment. When you woke up, you were dazed. You believed whatever he told you to believe." I felt my pulse pounding in my ears. The house blurred at the edges. I whispered, barely hearing myself. He pushed me. Elias nodded, not out of anger, out of control. He did not want you arguing with him that night. You told him you needed help. You were in pain. He refused to believe you. And when you tried to walk past him to call for help, he shoved you back. I closed my eyes, feeling the memory flicker like a flame suddenly relit. The fall, the sharp crack of my skull hitting the floor, the cold rush of air leaving my lungs. A sound escaped my lips, a broken, wounded sound I had not made in decades. Elias reached toward me, but I lifted a hand. "Not yet. I needed to stay steady." I asked quietly, "Why did you never tell me?" He lowered his head, "Because you were losing so much already. And Warren convinced the police and doctors that you were confused. Every witness was one of his family members. You would have been blamed. You would have been hurt again, so I kept the truth from you. I thought I was protecting you." My breath came out in shivers. 50 years. 50 years believing the lie that I fell, that I was clumsy, that I lost the baby because something was wrong with me. But it was him. It had always been him. I clenched my fists. A tiny spark of anger lit inside me, small but fierce. Anger I had never allowed myself to feel. I whispered, "All these years I blamed myself." Elias whispered back, "And that is what he wanted." Silence stretched between us like a wound. Then I asked, "What does my son know?" Elias paused, looked toward the window as if expecting the night to answer for him. Finally, he said, "I do not know exactly, but he believes Warren's version. He thinks you pushed me into his life, that I interfered with your marriage, that the baby was lost because of us." Us, that poisoned word Warren always used to divide me and Elias. I shook my head. Jace was just a child. He could not have remembered much from that time. "No," Elias agreed, "but Warren must have fed him stories as he grew older, enough to plant doubt, enough to make him think you hurt the family, enough to make him angry at you." I wiped at my cheek, surprised to find tears there. I had spent my entire life loving that boy, every hour, every breath, and now he saw me through Warren's eyes. I whispered, broken and small, "My own son hates me." Elias leaned forward. "No, he is confused, hurt. He has only heard lies. Once he knows the truth, everything will change." I wanted to believe him, but the image of Jace's cold eyes would not leave me. I steadied my voice. "You said someone else is coming tomorrow, someone who knows everything. Who is it?" Elias looked away again. This time his face tightened like he was struggling with something deep. "It is someone I thought would never return here. Someone connected to that night in ways you do not know. Someone who knew Warren long before you did." That answer stirred something dark and uneasy in my stomach. I whispered, "Elias, tell me. Who?" Before he could speak, the wind outside howled hard against the siding of the house, making the windows tremble. The sound cut through the room like a warning. We both turned toward the noise. Then the phone rang. a sharp, piercing sound that tore through the heavy silence. I flinched. Elias stood and watched the phone as if it might explode. I rose slowly and crossed the room. My fingers shook as I lifted the receiver. "Hello," I said. There was only breathing on the other end, slow, heavy. "Hello," I repeated, louder. Then a male voice whispered my name. "Lorna." My heart froze, because it was a voice from the past, a voice that should not know where I lived, a voice I had not heard since before Warren and I divorced, a voice connected to secrets I had buried even deeper than the baby. I felt the hairs on my arms rise. The voice said one more sentence, low, threatening, final. "Do not trust the man in your house. He is not telling you everything." My breath caught, my knees weakened. Then the line clicked dead. I lowered the phone slowly, the silence ringing in my ears. Elias stepped toward me, his face filled with concern. "Lorna, who is it? What did they say?" I turned to him, still trembling. "Someone who knows you, someone who knows what happened, someone who knows our secret." He froze, his expression changed, darkened, tightened. "Lorna, who is it?" I swallowed hard, my voice a whisper. "Elias. It was your brother." The color drained from his face. "My brother is dead," he said in a quiet, stunned voice. I shook my head. "No, he is not. He is coming tomorrow." Silence fell again, heavier than before. Elias stepped back like the floor had shifted beneath him. "Lorna," he whispered, "if that was my brother, then everything we thought we buried, everything we believed was over, is coming back. And it will not stop with a phone call." For several minutes, neither of us spoke. The house felt colder than before, as if the air itself had stepped back in fear. Elias stood in the center of my living room, staring toward the window as though expecting the night to answer questions he had carried for decades. His shoulders shook slightly, a tremor he tried to hide. At last he whispered, "Lorna, I buried my brother. I stood at his grave. I touched the dirt myself. Do you understand what that means?" I swallowed, my throat tight. I understand what I heard. It was his voice, Elias. I know that voice. I could never forget it. Elias turned to me, his face pale, his eyes full of something between confusion and dread. "My brother died in 1991. He was gone long before Warren ever left you, long before your divorce, long before any of this." I hugged my arms around myself, suddenly feeling as though the shadows in the room were listening. "Then who called me?" Elias shook his head, unable to form an answer. His hands flexed at his sides, restless. That voice was low, strained, but unmistakably familiar. For a moment, I saw something in Elias' eyes that I had never seen before. Fear, deep, shaken fear. He began packing the room. Every few seconds, he paused and pressed his hands to his forehead like he was trying to hold something together inside his mind. I watched him carefully. "Elias, talk to me. What is going on? What happened to your brother?" He stopped packing. He stood in front of me slowly, like a man stepping onto thin ice. "Lorna, my brother and Warren worked together once, before you and I ever met, before the summer everything changed." I blinked. "Worked together where?" Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "A construction site in the next county. A big one. There was an accident. Something went wrong on one of the scaffolds. A man died." I felt my stomach twist. I had never heard any of this. Elias continued, eyes distant. "The company tried to blame the workers, tried to blame my brother, but he insisted the truth was different. He claimed Warren knew something, that Warren had been involved in the cover-up, that he had threatened him to stay quiet." My breath caught. Warren threatened him just like he threatened everyone else. Elias nodded. "Yes, but my brother was stubborn. He was not scared of Warren. He told me he had proof, that he was going to expose Warren and his half of the crew who were hiding the truth. A shiver crawled up my spine. What happened to him, Elias? He swallowed hard. He was found dead 2 weeks later. The police said it was an accident, but I never believed that, not for 1 second. I stepped back slowly, my heart thudding. You think Warren had something to do with it? Elias closed his eyes. I never had proof. But now, after that phone call, I do not know what to believe anymore. We stood in silence, the weight of the past grinding against the present. My living room, usually soft and warm, felt like a vault suddenly cracked open. I whispered, Elias, if your brother survived somehow, why would he call me why now? Elias exhaled and leaned heavily against the dining table, because he knew something about that night, the one at the hospital. My breath hitched. He was there, I whispered. He saw something. Elias nodded slowly. If he really is alive, if he really is coming tomorrow, then he knows the truth. The whole truth, more than even I knew back then. I pressed my fingers against my temples. The room spun gently. Everything was moving too fast. Too many secrets, too many shadows, too many voices from the past coming alive. I do not understand, I whispered. He would have told us. He would not have kept quiet for 50 years. Elias looked at me with pained eyes, unless someone made him. The refrigerator hummed quietly in the background, the only sound in the house. For some reason, that soft humming made everything feel even more real, more dangerous. I sat down slowly. Elias followed, sitting across from me. Tell me everything you remember, Elias, everything. No more protecting me, no more half-truths. I want the whole story. He nodded. For the next hour he spoke softly, carefully, slowly. Every word carried years of guilt and confusion. He told me about Warren's job back then, the money problems he hid, the debts he owed to men who did not forgive. He told me how my brother-in-law had warned him that Warren was slipping into something illegal, something dangerous, something violent. He told me how the pregnancy had frightened Warren because a baby meant responsibility he did not want, pressure he could not handle, a future he was not ready to provide. He told me that the night I lost the baby, Warren had been drinking, and he had been arguing with someone on the phone right before he pushed me, a man whose voice Elias swore sounded like his brother. Then Elias told me something that made the floor tilt beneath my feet. Lorena, the hospital, did not tell you everything either. Warren talked to the doctor before they told you the baby was gone. He made them keep certain details from you. My breath caught. What details, Elias? What are you saying? Elias hesitated, his voice cracking. I think Warren knew the truth about the baby before you ever did. The truth about what? He swallowed hard, and then he said it. Because the baby might not have been his. My heart stopped, the room froze. I whispered, my baby was yours. Elias shut his eyes. Pain rippled across his face. I do not know for sure, Lorna, but that summer we were close, too close for Warren's comfort. And when he found out we were talking, when he found out you trusted me more than him, he became furious, jealous, terrified. I shook my head, tears spilling over. No, Elias, we never. He nodded. I know, but Warren twisted everything. In his mind, if you trusted another man more than him, then he believed you were capable of anything. He wanted to punish you for choosing safety over fear. A tremor moved through me like electricity. So Warren thought the baby was not his. Elias nodded. Yes, and that is why he hated me, why he drove me out of town, why he destroyed every attempt I made to reach you after. He thought I had taken something from him, something he claimed as his. I clutched my chest, trying to breathe. My baby, my heartbreak, my guilt, everything I carried for 50 years. All built on lies. All built on things I never knew. My voice broke. Elias, why did you not tell me this sooner? He looked at me with grief, because I was ashamed, because I did not want to make you relive that night, because I thought the truth would break you. But now, Lorna, the truth may be the only thing that saves you. I wiped at my cheeks. So tomorrow, your brother will come to reveal everything. Elias nodded slowly. Yes, if it truly was him on that phone. I wrapped my arms around my stomach. What if Warren knows he is alive? What if Warren is coming tomorrow to silence him? What if all of us are walking into something dangerous? Elias moved closer. Lorna, listen. I will not let anything happen to you. Not again. I met his eyes, but something inside me had already shifted. Something cold and strong. You cannot protect me from this, Elias. Not anymore. I have to face this. All of it. My son, Warren, your brother, the truth, the lies, everything we buried. Elias looked away, his jaw tightening. Then he whispered words that chilled me. You do not understand, Lorna. My brother was not the only one who knew the truth. He had a friend. Someone who vanished around the same time he did. Someone who never liked Warren. Someone who knows where the bodies are buried. Bodies, I gasped. Elias froze, realizing what he had revealed. He shook his head quickly. No, not bodies like that. I meant secrets. I meant the things everyone covered up. But his eyes betrayed him. He had slipped. There was more. Much more. I stood slowly, my legs shaking. Elias reached for me, but I stepped back. Elias, you have to tell me everything, right now. He hesitated, his face twisted with torment. Lorna, there is something even I did not know until recently. Something my brother told someone else before he disappeared. Something that connects you, me, Warren, and that night. I stared at him, my heartbeat pounding. What is it, Elias? Tell me. He looked at me with shattered eyes. The baby, Lorna. My breath stopped. The baby did not die the way they told you. The world tilted. My fingers slipped from the back of the chair. I whispered, Elias, what do you mean? He stepped closer, voice trembling. Tomorrow, when my brother walks through that door, you will hear the truth. But you must prepare yourself. Because the truth is not what either of us expected. And you need to know this before he arrives. Lorna, your baby may not be gone. My knees buckled. I did not faint, but the room spun violently as the impossible words entered the air. For several seconds, I could not breathe. Elias' words drifted through the air like smoke, impossible to grasp, impossible to believe, impossible to ignore. My baby may not be gone. Those 5 words shattered the world I had carried for 50 years. Every memory, every heartbeat of grief, every silent prayer whispered over the decades ripped open. I gripped the edge of the dining table, trying to stay upright. My chest tightened, my throat closed, and the room flickered with shadows that looked almost alive. Elias reached for my arm. Lorna, sit down, please. I dropped into the nearest chair, my knees trembling violently. I stared at him, waiting for him to take it back, to tell me he had misspoken, to tell me he meant something else, anything else. But his face only twisted in pain. I whispered, Elias, you cannot say something like that unless you know, unless you are sure. Are you sure? His jaw clenched, his eyes lowered. I am sure of one thing. My brother knew something the rest of us did not. He knew something the hospital covered up, something Warren pressured them to hide. Covered up, hid, pressured. I felt sick. My voice trembled. Elias, you need to tell me everything he said, every word. every detail. I do not care how painful it is. I want to know. He sat across from me slowly, his hands shaking as he rubbed his palms together. He stared at the floor for a long moment before he finally spoke. That night at the hospital, he began quietly, "You were unconscious for longer than you remember. Much longer. Warren was speaking to the doctor alone for nearly an hour. My brother overheard part of it." I swallowed, fear weaving itself through every muscle in my body. What did he hear? Elias hesitated. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. He heard Warren say the baby was not his. He heard him telling the doctor that there was no reason to keep the birth records, no reason to document the truth. Birth records, my voice sounded distant, like it came from someone else. Elias nodded. Yes, something about the paperwork, something about having it transferred, sealed, or destroyed. My brother could not hear everything, but he told me there was another man there that night. Someone who was not a doctor. Someone Warren knew. Another man, I whispered. Who? Elias shook his head. I do not know. My brother never gave a name. He only said the man stayed behind after the doctor left the room, and the door was locked. Locked, my heart began to race. Why would a hospital room need to be locked? Elias leaned closer. That is what my brother questioned too. He said he heard whispering, arguing, papers being shuffled. And then Warren walked out looking furious. My brother said he had never seen him like that. A cold wave washed over me, furious because the baby was not his. Elias lowered his eyes. That is what Warren believed. I pressed a trembling hand to my forehead. My thoughts spun like leaves in a storm. None of this made sense. None of it felt real. It felt like waking up in a dream that had been waiting 50 years to torment me. Finally, I forced myself to look at Elias. But Elias, how could the baby still be alive? The doctor told me. He told me. He hesitated, then whispered, what if the doctor lied? My breath caught. Lied? Why would a doctor lie to a mother losing her child? Elias' voice dropped even lower, because Warren was paying him. The words hit me like a blow. I felt my breath leave my body. I shook my head violently. No, Elias, you do not know that. You did not hear it yourself. That is too big to be guessing. He leaned forward, voice fierce. Lorena, I am not guessing. My brother told me Warren had a wad of cash in his jacket. He told me Warren and the doctor walked into a private office. He told me Warren threatened to sue the hospital unless things were handled quietly. My pulse pounded in my throat. Quietly, the word echoed like a bell inside my head. Quiet like a secret, quiet like a cover-up, quiet like a stolen heartbeat. I whispered, Elias, if the baby lived, where would they have taken it? Who would have taken it? He shook his head. My brother never told me, but he said the biggest lie was not what happened that night. The biggest lie was what happened after. I froze. After. Elias nodded. He said Warren returned to the hospital 2 days later without you. He went alone, and he left with a folder, a sealed one. A folder, my voice cracked. What was in it? Elias' face twisted with grief. The truth he did not want you to know. I covered my mouth to stop the sob that threatened to escape. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I whispered, broken, Elias, I held a funeral in my heart for 50 years. I cried every birthday. I blamed myself every night. And you are telling me now that it might have all been a lie. He reached out and took my hand gently. Lorna, listen to me. I did not know, I swear I did not know. My brother told me only pieces before he disappeared. I thought he was grieving. Confused, I thought he was mistaken. That is why I left town. I felt guilty, ashamed, lost. I stared at him through tears. You should have told me. He flinched. I know, Lorna, but I was young, scared. And I thought if the baby lived, if somehow it lived, someone would come forward. But no one ever did. So I convinced myself your baby was gone because I could not imagine any other truth. I pulled my hand away, pressing both palms to my face. I felt the weight of 50 years crashing into me like a flood. I sobbed, quietly at first, then harder as the truth, or the possibility of truth, shook every memory I had ever carried. Elias stood and walked toward me slowly, like approaching a frightened animal. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. His voice trembled. "Lorna, listen. This is why my brother is coming. This is why he called. He knows something we did not know, something Warren kept hidden from both of us." I lowered my hands and looked up at him with hollow eyes. What does he know? Elias, tell me. He swallowed, his voice almost breaking. He told his friend, the one who vanished, that he had tracked down something. Tracked down what? Elias, tell me. Tell me now. Elias finally met my eyes. "Your child." My breathing stopped. Elias continued, voice barely audible. "He said he found proof your baby was alive, that the child was taken but not far, that someone you knew, someone close, kept them hidden." My chest constricted, hands shook, the walls felt like they were closing in. I choked out, whispering, "Elias, who would take my baby, who would keep something like that from me?" Elias hesitated, then whispered the words that shattered the room. "He said it was someone from Warren's family." My head snapped up. What? Someone who wanted to raise the child. Someone who did not want you to know. Someone who believed it was better if you were left in the dark. I stood so fast my chair slid backward. My voice trembled. "Elias, are you telling me that someone in that group that stood on my porch tonight, someone in my own family, could be raising my child?" Elias stepped back, eyes heavy. "Yes, or someone connected to them. And that is why my brother is coming, why he is risking everything to show up tomorrow." Before he could finish, headlights flashed across my window. Elias froze. I turned toward the glass, my heart thundering. A car pulled up in front of my house, slowly, quietly. But it was not Warren. Not my son. Not any of them. The door opened. A tall figure stepped out. Not young. Not old. Standing still in the swirling snow. Facing my house, as though they had been waiting for this moment all their life. Elias whispered, "That is not my brother." I whispered back, trembling, "Then who is it?" The figure took a step toward my door. Another. Another. My breath caught. The porch creaked. A hand reached for the door. And then a voice, soft and steady, spoke from the other side. "Lorna, we need to talk." The knock echoed through my small living room like a heartbeat that did not belong to me. Slow, heavy, demanding to be heard. Elias and I stared at the door, neither one of us breathing. Every sound in the house seemed to fall silent. Even the wind outside held its breath. The voice came again. "Lorna, please open the door." I swallowed hard. It was not a voice I recognized. Not from my past, not from Warren's family, not from the people who had stood on my porch earlier like a pack of wolves. This voice was calm, steady, almost gentle, but there was something underneath it, something I could not name, something that made my hands tremble. Elias whispered, "Do not open it yet. Let me check." But before he could move, I shook my head. No. If this person knows my name, if they came alone, if they came quietly, then they are not here to hurt us. People who want to hurt do not knock. They break in. Elias looked uncertain, but he stepped back and let me approach. My fingertips brushed the cold metal of the door latch. I took a deep breath and opened it a few inches. The porch light flickered above us, casting the visitor in shadows. Snowflakes fell around them in slow spirals. The figure stood tall, long coat wrapped tight. Their face lifted toward me, and in the dim light I could finally see the features. Gray eyes. Sharp jawline. Soft lines around the mouth. A face that looked familiar in a way I could not explain. The stranger removed their gloves slowly, as if giving me time to recognize them. I didn't, but something about their posture, their caution, their sadness made my heart twist. "Ma'am," the stranger said quietly, "I did not want to frighten you. My name is Rowan Hale." Rowan, an uncommon name, one that carried weight without explanation, one I had never heard connected to my life. I kept the door half open. "What do you want?" Rowan looked past me toward Elias, then back at me. "I need to talk to both of you. It is about your husband, and about the child you lost." My breath hitched. Elias froze. I opened the door all the way. Rowan stepped inside, slowly brushing snow from their coat. I noticed their hands shaking, almost imperceptibly. They were nervous, very nervous. That alone told me they were not here to cause harm. We moved into the living room. I sat on the edge of the sofa. Elias stood behind me, arms crossed tight. Rowan remained standing at first, eyes moving around the room as if searching for the right place to begin. Finally, Rowan spoke. I used to work with private state archives. Records people are not supposed to see. Birth records, adoption transfers, sealed documentation, paperwork that does not show up on any public database." My pulse quickened. Sealed documentation, records, papers, words that had lived in the back of my nightmares for decades. Rowan continued. "A few months ago, someone filed an anonymous request for an extremely old document, a birth record, but it had been marked sealed by court order. When I went looking for it, the file was missing. Gone, not shredded, not archived, removed." I whispered, "Why are you telling us this?" Rowan inhaled deeply. "Because the name connected to the sealed file was yours, Lorena, and the date was the night you were taken to the hospital." My heart hammered against my ribs. I felt Elias' hand grip the back of the couch behind me. Rowan moved closer. I kept searching. I found fragments, a folder that should not have existed, a signature that had been crossed out, a document that had been refiled under another name. And that is when someone warned me to stop. "Someone warned you?" Elias asked sharply. "Who?" Rowan's voice lowered. "The same person who called you tonight." Elias stiffened. "My brother." Rowan nodded slowly. "Yes. He called me 2 weeks ago. He said if I wanted the truth, I needed to leave the state, hide the files, and wait for his signal. Then he disappeared." My skin prickled. Disappeared. That word had followed this story like a shadow. I asked softly, "What did he tell you?" Rowan hesitated. "He said the truth would destroy a family and free another." My breath caught. Rowan finally sat on the chair across from me. Their voice softened. "Lorna, your child may be alive, and I know who took them." The room narrowed. The walls seemed to tilt. Elias sank into the armchair as though his legs had given out. I leaned forward, gripping my knees to stay steady. "Tell me, please, tell me who took my baby." Rowan exhaled slowly, as if preparing to break something delicate. Their eyes met mine, full of sorrow. "The doctor who treated you that night was not the one assigned to your case. He was brought in by your husband. He was paid, but he was not the one who took your child." I whispered, "Then who?" Rowan's jaw tightened. "Someone who worked in the maternity ward, someone who had access to newborns, someone who believed Warren when he said the child was better off without you." I felt pain slash through me like a blade. Better off without me. The cruelty of it stole my breath. Rowan continued. The person took the baby from the hospital before the paperwork was finished. The adoption was not legal. It was hidden, and the child was placed into a family that did not know the truth. A family that believed they were receiving a newborn from a mother who did not want them. I closed my eyes, tears slipping down my cheeks silently. Elias whispered hoarsely, "Who was it, Rowan, who took the baby?" Rowan looked at him, then at me. It was Warren's cousin, the one who moved to Kansas the year after. My heart dropped. I remembered her. Tall, quiet, pale freckles, and always watching me with eyes that judged everything I did. She had visited the hospital that night. She brought a casserole the next day. I felt sick. Elias frowned. But why her? Why would she take the baby? Rowan clasped their hands, because she had been trying to adopt for years, and the hospital knew her, and Warren trusted her. My body shook. My voice was barely audible. This woman took my baby from the hospital and raised the child as her own. Rowan nodded. Yes, and the adoption was hidden so well that even the child never learned the truth. The room spun. Elias looked at Rowan sharply. Then where is the child now? Rowan hesitated. Their expression changed. A shadow passed over their face. That is the part you are not going to believe. I stiffened. Elias leaned in, shoulders tense. Rowan's voice lowered. The child grew up in a rural town in Kansas, raised by the cousin and her husband. But 3 years ago, the child learned they were adopted. They began searching for their birth parents. They hired someone, and that person found a name. My name, I whispered. Yes, Rowan said. They found your name, and they tried to contact you. I shook my head. No one contacted me. No one called. Rowan swallowed, because someone intercepted the messages. Who would do that, I demanded. Who would keep my child from reaching me? Rowan's eyes softened with pity. Your son. I stopped breathing. The room went silent. Elias' face drained of color. My son Jace, I whispered. He knew someone messaged him, someone told him, and he never told me. Rowan nodded slowly. He pretended the messages never existed. My heart broke in a fresh, unbearable way. I clutched the arm of the couch. Elias whispered, why would he do that? Why hide it? Rowan looked at me with deep sorrow, because he believed the lie his father fed him. He believed you abandoned the baby. He believed you cheated. He believed the child was not his blood, so he thought he was protecting the family. Protecting the family. That phrase echoed inside me like a scream. I whispered, shaking, where is my child now, Rowan? Please tell me. Tell me where they are. Rowan took a deep breath, then gave an answer that sent a shockwave through my entire body. Your child is an adult now. Their name is Mara Hale, and they moved to this state 6 months ago. My eyes widened, my breath caught. Mara Hale. My child. Alive. Here. Rowan continued, voice trembling with emotion. Mara has been living less than 20 miles from you. I gripped the couch harder. Elias choked out, why so close? Rowan finally looked me in the eyes. Because she thinks you abandoned her. Because she believes you wanted nothing to do with her. But still, for some reason she could not explain, she wanted to be near you. A sob escaped me. Rowan leaned forward, voice soft. Lorena, Mara is my wife. I froze. Elias froze. The air in the room seemed to stop. Rowan's voice broke. I married your daughter. My world shattered and reformed in a single breath. For several moments, no one in the room moved. Rowan's words hung in the air, heavy and unreal, like a storm cloud that refused to pass. I married your daughter. My fingers twitched against my knees. My heart beat too fast and too slow all at once. Elias stared at Rowan with his mouth slightly open, as if the air itself had been pulled out of him. I whispered, barely making a sound, "My daughter." The word rolled off my tongue like something sacred and unfamiliar. I had not said it in 50 years, not since I was 19 and full of dreams, not since the night everything was taken from me. Rowan swallowed hard, their voice trembling. "Yes, Mara is your daughter, and she has no idea." My chest tightened. No idea. No idea that she had been stolen. No idea that I had cried over her every birthday. No idea that I had spent half a century believing she never breathed long enough to say her first cry. Elias moved first. He stood slowly, like a man rising from a wreckage. "How long have you known this Rowan?" Rowan lowered their head. "Not long. I suspected when I saw the sealed record. But I only confirmed it a few weeks ago, and I have been trying to figure out how to tell Mara ever since." I whispered, "You chose to come to me first." Rowan's eyes lifted to mine. "Yes, because I needed the truth from you before I destroy her world with mine." The honesty in their voice struck me like a blow. Kindness, fear, guilt, love, it was all there, tangled into a single trembling confession. I pressed my fingers to my lips, trying to steady my breathing. "Tell me about her. Tell me everything." For the first time since arriving, Rowan's expression softened, almost smiled, though the smile shook. "She is the strongest person I know, kind, brave. She works at a small community clinic, helps elderly patients, fights for people who have no one else. She has this way of making a room warmer just by stepping in." My throat closed. "Just like you," Rowan added quietly. A soft gasp escaped me. I did not know whether to cry or cling to the words like lifelines. Then Rowan hesitated. "She does not trust easily. She carries a lot of pain. She always felt like something was missing inside her, like some part of her story was broken." I closed my eyes. My heart ached. That hollow space in her life was shaped like me. When Mara learned she was adopted, Rowan continued. "She searched for her parents for almost 3 years. She was desperate to know why she was given away." Given away. The phrase stabbed me, twisting deep. I whispered, shaking, "And she thinks I did that to her." Rowan nodded. "Yes, she believes her birth mother did not want her." Tears blurred my vision. I pressed a shaking hand against my chest. My baby, my daughter, wandering this world thinking she was unwanted. Elias spoke carefully. "When she searched, how close did she come to the truth?" Rowan's voice lowered. "Too close. She found her adoption was illegal. She learned the paperwork was forged. She learned Warren's cousin was involved, but she did not know who her real parents were." I looked up sharply, but she found my name. Rowan nodded. "She did, but before she could reach out to you, her message went to your house phone, the same phone your son checks, and he intercepted it." My stomach twisted. Why would he do that? Why would he take that from her, from me? Rowan hesitated. "Because he believed the same story he was fed as a child. That your baby was a shameful mistake, that you wanted the child gone, and that no one was supposed to talk about it again." I closed my eyes as pain washed over me. So many lies, so many years, so much stolen time. Rowan's voice softened. "Jace believed he was protecting you, protecting the family. He never understood he was blocking the one thing Mara needed most." Silence settled over the room again. I tried to swallow, but the lump in my throat was too large. Finally, I whispered, "Rowan, does Mara know you are here tonight?" Rowan shook their head. "No, and if she knew, she would be furious. Scared, hurt. She has abandonment wounds that never healed. She thinks seeking answers is betrayal." I leaned back, my body trembling, my mind spinning. Does she know you talked to Elias's brother? Rowan's face tightened. No, she does not know he was trying to protect her, or warn me, or that he disappeared because of it. Elias tensed. Disappeared, that word again. Rowan continued slowly. His last message to me said only one thing: be careful, they are still watching. Silence dropped like a stone. They, I whispered. Who is they? Rowan shook their head. I do not know, but someone is trying hard to keep the truth buried. Someone connected to your late husband. Someone who does not want this to come out. My breath grew sharp. Elia's jaw tightened. Rowan looked between us with worry etched deep into their face. Then Rowan reached into their coat and pulled out a small, worn envelope. They placed it gently on the coffee table between us. This, Rowan said softly, is what started everything. I stared at it. My hands twitched, but I did not touch it yet. Rowan explained. My brother-in-law found this in a locked drawer after Warren's cousin died last year. It was hidden under old insurance papers. There were no names on the outside, but the inside. Rowan swallowed, voice shaking. The inside contains part of your baby's birth record, the unedited one, the one before it was altered. I felt the world tilt. Elias stepped forward. Let me see it. Rowan lifted a hand. No, Lorena should see it first. My fingers trembled violently as I reached for the envelope. It felt too light to carry so much weight, too fragile to hold 50 years of loss. I slid a finger beneath the flap and pulled out a single folded paper. I opened it slowly. My breath hitched. There, in faded ink, was my name. Mother, Lorena Winters. Age, 19. Condition, stable. Infant, female. Status, transferred. Transferred. The word echoed like a thunderclap. Transferred. Not deceased. Not lost. Not gone. Transferred. My vision blurred as tears fell freely. My hand covered my mouth to keep from crying out. Rowan whispered, we do not know where she was taken that night, but we know she lived, and she survived, and she became Mara. I pressed the paper to my chest. My knees shook so badly I feared I might fall. Elias came to my side, placing a trembling hand on my shoulder. Rowan spoke again, voice full of remorse. Lorena, I did not come to bring you pain. I came because Mara is breaking inside. She feels like a stranger in her own life, and she is so close to the truth that it is already hurting her. She deserves the real story, and so do you. I wiped my tears with shaking fingers. So Mara is nearby right now. Rowan nodded. Yes, she is in this state, living in a small rented house near the county line. I whispered, can I see her? Rowan inhaled deeply. That is complicated. Mara is fragile, emotional. She has been betrayed by every person she ever trusted except me. If I tell her suddenly that her whole life was stolen, she might break. My heart ached. Then what do we do? How do we fix this? Rowan looked at me with steady determination. I need to talk to her first. I need to prepare her heart before she meets you. If she realizes everything at once, without warning, she might shut down. I shook my head, tears falling again. But I cannot wait much longer, Rowan. I have 50 years to make up for. I know, Rowan said gently, and she feels the same emptiness inside her, even without knowing why. I promise you she will come to you. Elias stepped forward. Rowan, when did you last hear from my brother? Rowan hesitated. Before you answer, I said softly, tell me one more thing. Does Mara know about you coming here tonight? Rowan shook their head. No, and that is why we need to be careful. Mara thinks she is unwanted. She thinks her birth mother made a choice. She does not know she was taken. I whispered, then who can tell her that truth besides you? Rowan hesitated. Elias watched closely. Finally, Rowan answered. Me, or the person who took her. I stiffened. Elias stiffened. And who is that Rowan? Rowan took a slow breath, then spoke the words that froze the air. The person who took Mara is still alive. And they know you are searching for the truth. A chill ran down my spine. Elias whispered, then that means. Yes, Rowan said, they are coming. And they will do anything to stop us. The words seemed to fall like cold water down my spine. Someone is coming. Someone who stole my child. Someone who lived inside Warren's lies and carried them forward across decades. Elias stepped closer to Rowan, voice tight. Who is still alive who took Mara? Rowan shook their heads slowly. I do not have a name, not yet, but I know they were close to Warren, close enough to carry out something this dark. Someone who believed he deserved control over everything, including a newborn baby. I swallowed, my mouth dry. But the cousin who raised Mara, she is gone. You said she passed. Rowan nodded. She did, last year, but she did not act alone. There was someone else in the hospital, someone who made sure the adoption stayed buried, someone who handled the paperwork, someone who made sure you never learned the truth. I felt a tremor run through my hands. Elias gently rested his palm on my back, but even he felt unsteady. Why would anyone protect Warren's lie? After all this time, I whispered. Rowan looked at me with sorrow. Because they believed the lie too, or because they gained something from it, or because they were afraid of what would happen if the truth came out. I closed my eyes. 50 years. 50 years trapped in someone else's story, someone else's choices, someone else's cruelty. Rowan took a breath. There is more. The person who took Mara, they were the one who called you tonight. I froze. Elias stiffened beside me. I whispered, that voice, it said not to trust Elias. It said he was hiding something. Rowan blinked in surprise. They called you first. Yes, I said faintly, right before you arrived. Rowan's jaw tightened. Then they are panicking, losing control. If they are calling you, it means they know I found the birth records. They know Mara's past is falling apart, and they know we are connecting the dots. Elias leaned against the wall, running a hand over his face. Why now, why suddenly? Because, Rowan said simply, someone is about to be exposed. I looked between the two of them. A thought flickered through my mind, a terrible thought. I whispered, Rowan, is this person watching Mara? Rowan paused, their eyes shifted, their throat tightened. Yes, Rowan finally said, I think they are. My heart turned to ice. Rowan continued, voice low. Mara told me she felt watched these last few months. She said someone kept leaving things at her door. No footprints in the snow. No packages, just small notes. Nothing written, just blank paper. My breath caught. I knew that feeling. That sense of being followed by a shadow no one else could name. Rowan said quietly, at first I thought she was anxious. But when I found the missing birth record, I realized someone was trying to warn her, or scare her, or control her. I whispered, what will they do now that you have come here? Rowan looked toward the window, the darkness outside thick and silent. They will come to stop you from knowing anything else. They have kept this secret for 50 years. They will not let it go easily. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. A sharp knock sounded from the back door. All three of us froze. My heart jumped into my throat. Rowan's eyes widened. They stepped forward, glancing toward the hallway. Elias whispered, that door does not have a porch light. You cannot see anyone standing there. The knocking came again, louder, more urgent. Rowan looked at me. Stay here, do not move. They started toward the hallway, but Elias grabbed their arm. "Do not go alone." Rowan's voice stayed steady, but their eyes were fearful. "If it is them, you both need to stay behind me." I whispered, shaking Rowan, "What if it is Mara?" Rowan turned slowly. If it were Mara, she would not knock like that. She would call me first, and she would never come here without telling me. The knocking stopped suddenly. Silence swallowed the room. Elias whispered, "Maybe they left." Rowan shook their head. "No, they are still there." I felt a cold sweat form along my spine. I stood, unable to stay still any longer. My voice trembled. "Rowan, please be careful." Rowan nodded once. Then they moved toward the hallway slowly, Elias right behind them. The two of them disappeared into the narrow corridor leading to the back of the house. I stood alone in the living room, breath held tight in my chest. My fingers dug into my palms as the seconds stretched into what felt like minutes. Then suddenly, Rowan's voice echoed sharply from the hallway. "Stop right there." A shadow moved through the doorway. I stumbled back, my heart leaping into my throat. Elias followed Rowan's voice, but he sounded equally startled. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" I stood frozen, staring at the dark shape that shifted farther into the hallway, just out of sight. Rowan spoke again, voice loud and firm. "Come into the light, now." For a moment, nothing happened. Then slow, steady footsteps moved toward us. A figure stepped out of the hallway. Older, thin, gray hair pulled tightly behind their head, eyes that flickered with a strange mix of authority and desperation. I recognized the face, not from my marriage, not from my life with Warren, but from the hospital. A nurse. A nurse from that night. My knees nearly buckled. I grabbed the edge of the sofa to stay upright. The nurse looked at me, jaw trembling. "Lorna Winters." My voice cracked. You were there. You were the one who checked my vitals. You were the one who told me my child was gone." The nurse swallowed, her hands shaking so badly she had to grip the doorframe to stay steady. I whispered, tears rising in my eyes, "You lied to me." The nurse looked at Rowan, then Elias, then back at me. Her voice shook with a fragile mix of guilt and fear. I did what I was told. I felt something inside me snap. Elias stepped forward, voice sharp. "Where is Mara's birth record? Who else was involved?" But the nurse raised a trembling hand, not to answer, to silence him. Her gaze was fixed only on me, her eyes filled with something dark and heavy. "You should not search for her, Lorna," she whispered. "You should not dig into this." My stomach twisted. Why not? The nurse finally broke. "Because your daughter does not know the whole story. And when she learns the truth, her world will not be the only one that collapses." She took a shaky breath. "And because the person who took her is closer than you think." The room spun. Rowan stepped forward, voice tight. "Who is it? Tell us now." The nurse hesitated, tears forming. "I cannot. If I do, they will destroy me, and they will destroy you, all of you." Rowan's voice rose. "Tell us now." But the nurse stepped back, shaking her head violently. "I am sorry. I should not have come. I should not have." Her voice cut off. A sudden crash sounded from outside. We all jolted. Headlights swept across the window again. A car door slammed. Rowan turned sharply toward the front of the house. "They are here." Elias grabbed my arm. Rowan's face hardened. "Everyone stay behind me." The front doorknob began to turn. Slowly. Deliberately. I felt my heart stop. The doorknob kept turning, slow and steady, as if the person on the other side wanted us to feel every second of fear slipping through the cracks. Rowan stepped in front of me, shoulders tight, eyes fixed on the door. Elias stood at my side, and I could feel the heat of his breath as he whispered, "Stay behind me, Lorna." The nurse, pale and trembling, backed into a corner as though she wished she could melt into the wall. I wanted to shout at her, demand answers, but terror pinned my voice to my ribs. The door opened. Not all at once, inch by inch. And then a figure stepped inside. For a moment, the room held its breath. The air felt thick enough to choke. He was tall, broad shoulders, gray hair swept back, a familiar heavy coat, a face I had not seen in decades, a face I had once trusted, a face that used to stand in my living room as if he owned it. My breath stopped. Charles Denton. Warren's closest friend, his best man, the man who visited our home more than Warren ever did, the man who always watched me too closely, the man who disappeared the same month my baby was born. Rowan stiffened. "You." The nurse let out a fragile gasp. "Please, Charles, do not do this." He didn't look at her. His cold eyes fell straight on me. "Hello, Lorna." My knees weakened. I grabbed Elia's arm to steady myself. I knew that voice. I had heard it through telephone wires, through hospital hallways, through the dark spaces between memory and truth. "You," I whispered. "You took her." He tilted his head, a strange sadness in his expression. "Lorna, you do not understand what happened." Rowan stepped forward angrily. "Then explain it. Explain why you stole a newborn child. Explain why you hid the birth record. Explain why you made sure she grew up believing lies." Charles inhaled deeply, almost regretfully. "I did not steal her. I saved her." My stomach twisted. Saved her from what? He looked at me, his voice quiet but heavy. "From Warren." The room froze. I blinked, unable to process the words. "From Warren," he repeated. "From a man who could not raise a child without breaking her. From a man who controlled everything he touched. From a man who would have used that baby the same way he used you." My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I stepped forward, anger breaking through fear. Warren was controlling. He was cruel, I know that. But to take my child, he had no right. You had no right. No one had that right. Charles's jaw tightened. "You think I wanted to do it? I was protecting her." "No," Rowan cut in sharply. "You were protecting yourself. You forged the papers. You bribed the nurse. You arranged the transfer. You made the decision that belonged to Lorna." Charles glanced toward the nurse. "She did what I asked because she knew the truth. She knew what Warren was capable of." The nurse looked away, tears streaming silently. I shook my head. My voice trembled. "You could have told me. You could have warned me. You could have given her back once Warren died." Charles flinched as if struck. She was already calling someone else her mother. She had a life, a good life, better than anything Warren would have allowed. Elias stepped forward, voice sharp. "That was not your choice." Charles's eyes flicked to Elias, and something cold crossed his face. "And you, the older lover, the man guiding her now, you think I do not know who you are? I have watched you for months. You came into her life pretending to heal her, and now you lead her toward the truth, a truth that will break her." Elias didn't move. "You watched me." Charles nodded slowly. "I have watched all of you, because the truth is not the gift you believe it is." Rowan lifted their chin. "So you followed Mara. You left the blank notes. You tried to scare her." Charles's mouth twitched with guilt. "I was trying to stop her before she got hurt. Once she knew she was not your biological daughter, she began digging. Too deeply. Someone might have hurt her for that." "Someone like you," Elias said. Charles did not answer. I stepped closer, my voice shaking. "Where is she, Charles? Where is my daughter?" For the first time, his expression softened. "I never harmed her. I swear it. I watched from a distance only to make sure she was safe. When she disappeared, I was as lost as you. My breath hitched, disappeared when. 2 weeks ago, he whispered, right after Rowan found the first set of adoption inconsistencies. She vanished before anyone could stop her. She is searching for the original records, and so am I. A faint ringing began in my ears. My daughter missing, alone, running toward a truth she did not understand. Rowan froze. If she has the wrong documents, she might be heading to the old convent. Charles nodded grimly. Yes, that is where she will go. Rowan inhaled sharply. Then we do not have time to argue. We need to go. He stepped toward the door, but Charles grabbed his arm. It is too dangerous. You do not know who else is involved. Rowan jerked free. I do not care. She is out there. I pushed past both of them. My legs shook, but I forced them to move. I am going. She needs me. Charles grabbed my wrist. Lorna, if she learns the truth without you, it will destroy her. I stared at him with all the strength left in me. Then I will give her the truth myself. Charles looked at me for a long moment, breathing heavily. Finally, he nodded as though accepting a fate he had been running from for 50 years. Very well, he said softly. I will take you to her. Rowan stiffened. You expect us to trust you. Charles looked tired. Broken, I expect nothing. But I am the only one who knows where she is likely going. Rowan hesitated, then stepped aside. We move now. The nurse shook her head frantically. Please, do not do this. If the whole truth comes out, none of you will be safe. I turned to her. The truth already came for us. Running will not stop it. We left the house together. Me, Rowan, Elias, and Charles leading the way. The night air was cold on my cheeks, but my heart burned with something fierce. Hope. Fear. Fire. We climbed into 2 cars. Charles drove ahead. Rowan and Elias stayed with me. The headlights cut through the trees as we headed toward the old convent deep in the countryside, where secrets had slept for half a century. As miles passed, I closed my eyes. Mara, my daughter, my lost child, I am coming. Whatever waited for me in that old building, whatever truth Charles feared, whatever shadows still clung to Mara's past, I would face it. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with strength. Quiet, unshakable strength. The kind only a mother carries. The kind no lie can erase. The convent appeared at the top of the hill, dark and silent. And I whispered into the night, Hold on, Mara. I am here. Thank you for listening to this emotional story. If you want more powerful stories like this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new chapter. And tell me in the comments where in the country you are watching from. Meet you in the next one.